the topics we've had this morning, there's an onboarding theme. And it would be great in the last 15 minutes to the hour. I'll invite Leslie-Ann to sort of just lead a quick conversation in a panel on this theme, Leslie-Ann.
Hopefully you guys can all join me with your video as well. It's been so good to see the progress on onboarding friction removal. From even just the last coming into this one, I can see we now effectively have a marketplace. We have at least 4, maybe 5 tools, I think, that are all about helping both hub operators get started to connect to DFSPs and also help DFSPs understand what the heck to do first. So I would definitely want to congratulate you all on your efforts. My question to you is, how do we, as the Moduloop Foundation, best support you in your mission, and how do we join things together? How do we start to create a conversation around this as a marketplace? Any thoughts from the room?
Maybe I can start on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I fully agree with you, Leslie. It's really great to see the updates and the synergy that we have between the tools. I still think each of the tools that have their own particular there, and maybe we can think in a way that we can share this particular inside of Moduloop, right? So you comment about the marketplace, so it would be great if you have a place, maybe Moduloop website or some other place where we can share the tools that we have and the purpose of each of the tools. So GFSPs and other members will be able to see and quickly understand about that, to understand what they should use and where they should use, and maybe what will fit in them together and better to onboarding and so on.
That's exactly the kind of conversation we've been having at Product Council a little bit. It's like, we need to help our DFSPs, but we also need to help our candidate hub operators go, you've got this job to do, which is to get all these DFSPs onboarded. You've got to do all the business conversations. And then what? How do you get started? And so I think we'd be very supportive at the Moduloop Foundation of how do we showcase your work. And so we're hopeful that you'll actually want to work together on that problem space and help us figure out what the best thing is to do to get this off the ground. So it's a call to all of you to kind of, let's get involved together and work on making that happen. What have you thought of each other's tools? Do you think they are competitive, complementary? Do you see a journey for DFSPs and hub operators through the tool set?
Well, I'm not sure if anyone wants to speak, but just sharing my thoughts as well. I don't see as, well, of course, the tools have a few things they do at the same level. So you can do like testing a GFSP using the TTK and using the GSMA ITP and using a Mythos environment. But I see much more as a complementary point of view, right? Mythos, I think they're doing an excellent job to show how you can build actually production system using the whole open source domain. So, and show people how they can achieve that. I see more TTK as more an internal tool where they can use to test Moduloop and ensure that Moduloop is ready to go to production. And I start seeing more and more the ITP going to support the hub operators on how they can onboard in their GFSPs on the real network. So I see the competition between that, but I also see the complementary over the tools and how you can use the journey.
And I'd add to that, the TTK tool was fantastic for us at the hackathon last week. I think, Sam, there was a lot of the hackathon attendees started to understand a little bit about the API at the awareness level by the way that they're able to interact there. But GSMA were also part of that hackathon as well. So we actually saw both tools in action at the same time, which is really interesting. Any thoughts about the hackathon last week, 2 weeks ago?
Definitely. I think Michael will add more, but yeah, I think so this is very simple at heart. So it makes us understand a synchronous nature, where the FSPs come in, where the switch comes in, and what the user needs, and how the L1P comes into play as well. Like, for example, not allowing full payments and taking the customer consent for quotes and things like that. So far, one gap that we have with module loop system, as you know better than anyone, and everyone else here knows, is we weren't able to have that user interface or user experience kind of a thing. Now we have like 4 things in the area. We have payment manager, the ITP, TTK, and the payment hub as well. So one thing we noticed from the participants was they were enthusiastic because they could now interact and see what's going on. So a lot of times, if I deploy module loop now prior to the TTK, I couldn't see anything. I can't see anything. So I have to make some API calls to see what is registered. I have to see what the limits are. This gives us a way around that. And hopefully we can build on that. We actually wanted to add, we had a workshop with the GSMA, ITP, and the TTK this past PI, which helped us. I agree with Bruno said. There are some overlap areas, but these work differently. So soon, not too late, but hopefully soon we can come to a place where we understand what use cases each of the tools cater for better, and it gives better choices for FSPs on hubs to make good decisions moving forward.
Yeah, and I think just to go back also to your last question, Leslie Ann, we started a conversation with the team at Modusbox last quarter around, trying to identify what that common set of requirements is, and then looking at components of both the payment manager and payment hub, and where, there's commonality and where, there's room for innovation and differentiation. And I think being able to define, what that core level is, and then how you can innovate and differentiate on top, whether it's through the UI, additional connectors, additional advanced features. I think that would be a good discussion to have as a follow-on, and have more of that dedicated, task force to look at what the common requirements are, and then where others can innovate around these different solutions in a marketplace.
Yeah, I would say that there's kind of, there are different levels that we need to consider. And I think each of the tools that we've seen so far are pitched at slightly different levels. I mean, one of the things that we've seen in the testing toolkit is that it was partly designed to support the sets of tests that were run as part of continuous integration and deployment, so that every time new code is put into the module loop switch, we can run a set of tools a set of tests via TTK to make sure that they're performing okay. And I don't suppose that either of the other tools are really that's part of their remit. Then there's a layer beyond that, which is about interfaces with the actual API, and a layer beyond that, which is about interfaces with the scheme adapter or the payment manager or whatever, i.e. further tools that simplify the interface but still need to be tested both in the way in which customers use them and also in the results they produce. Sorry, Leslie Ann, I can see you're trying to jump in.
What I loved about listening to all of you this last quarter, because I've talked individually to the various teams, what I've loved is that we've discovered some of our original assumptions might not be quite right, and we've solved problems. When we've taken this to the field for real, we've discovered actually certificate management is a pretty hard problem for DFSPs. So we need to work on solving things, and that's where these tools have evolved from. It's really it's interesting to see that no plan is kind of, no plan survives first view of the enemy, if you like. It's that kind of that analogy of the world. So what I love is that what's happening now is based on traction on the ground, and how do we get more DFSPs onboarded to real hubs? So it's a different way to talk about it. Are any of you measuring anything today in terms of length of time it takes previously versus length of time it takes now to onboard, or number onboarded to a real hub? Is there a way for us to start talking about statistics and usage in the field at these community events a little bit more?
Let me put my view here as well. I think that the best approach here would be talking together with Mawali, right? I think it's the first live hub and who has already some DFSPs and will be onboarding more and more. So having them part of this direction, I think will be the best way to to follow up on the statistics and how that's flying and how it's evolving and how faster they're improving their process.
And Moali are actually at our product council quite a lot. So we've been talking at product council about this quite a bit. I think what I'm trying to do as well is see how do we connect the fact that we're making these software changes back to removing friction, which is our big theme for 2021 for the community, is removing friction. And how do we start to measure what that means, what remove friction actually means? Are you thinking about that in your work at all? How do we baseline where we are, and therefore what we're doing improves this by 2 weeks, by 10 days, by 1 day? Is that how you're thinking about your prioritization processes?
Yeah, that one of the key things that we will support Moali once we start having go lives, right? So we start having an evaluation phase 1, that's what we call. So we are doing internal testing on the tool, and we move soon to evaluation phase 2, where we start onboarding real GFSPs on side of the Moali partner onboarding platform. And over that direction, we'll be able to see how we are supporting them and how faster they are going on the process and how they can scale up the onboarding process with the GFSPs. That's the key thing that we want to achieve.
Super.
I can jump in just to augment on that, what Bruno said quickly. Before we even started any of the work with Moali, we obviously spent some time understanding their current process and giving ourselves a benchmark, right? So that we haven't got the answer to how much better is it yet, but we do know what we're working towards. We do know what we're trying to improve upon. So we've got some steps in that direction.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So we have some questions in the comments, and it's an open floor to you guys to see how you can answer them. They're linked, I would say. One is, we'd love to hear how the panelists think Payment Hub and Payment Manager differ in terms of use cases, but also how are Modusbox and MyFOS different, which is a similar kind of question, because one's a vendor of one open sources one product and one open sources a different product. So any thoughts on that? How are you guys talking about what are the differences and the similarities between Payment Manager and Payment Hub? If you're not,
Istvan,
it's also fine.
Yeah,
Istvan, are you able to take some of the takeaways you've had from the conversations we've had thus far? So.
And like this discussion started, then we had the face-to-face communings previously, probably in Johannesburg, or even before that we discussed that how the tools going to be built, how to use the SDK, what are the main differences. There's a couple of architectural differences, but broadly there is two tools probably supporting or focusing a little bit differently that how to onboard someone. And my suggestion would be to create some kind of cookbooks for these DFSPs that, if you want to go with REST APIs, or you want an SDK, or you want a more advanced tool, or you want only for testing, then which tools you have. And then it's up to probably for these DFSPs to make their choices that which tool fits them better, or how to utilize these tools. But roughly, they do similar things with different approaches. Probably they have different strong capabilities and weaker capabilities, but that's normal because there needs to be different approaches to target this.
Thank you. So I think exactly that. What we want to start to do is create a marketplace that shows a playbook of, if you're a hub operator, you need to know about these things, they exist, and therefore how to interact with them. I'd also love, if we could, have a work stream this year. Work stream maybe is a strong word, a task force, where you are all able to see the pain points together that you're solving, and maybe there's a way to cross-pollinate ideas and get our DFS onboarding even stronger. So I'm hopeful that you guys will help us with building that playbook, and also to kind of help us keep innovating in the future, signposting the various work that you're doing in a way that is long-lived, that we can bring to new hub adopters. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for joining me on the panel, and I'm looking forward to the next year ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie Ann.